It's my honor to welcome Jerome Joseph, a grad student from Oxford in cognitive therapy. And so this is a great question to ask. Some say that you can't help someone who won't help themselves. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you know when to continue to help someone or when to set boundaries and step back?
Okay. Now, in my field, there will be times when somebody cannot help themselves and we have to provide an intervention. Now, there are other special circumstances too, due to trauma or whatever. There might be situations where people cannot help themselves. But that saying usually is to do with when people are functional and they have the resources to function and they choose not to change something. So in those situations, I'll give you a good example. When I first specialized in cognitive therapy some years ago now, and I was beginning to work in the clinical field, I only saw the problem of the person. So if they had a particular psychological disorder that will respond to cognitive therapy, I would say, yes, I will go with it. I didn't care whether it was there for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, because our psychology department usually worked with long-term issues. So I was fine with that. But my supervisor one day, in our supervision brought it up. He said, Jerome, just the problem alone is insufficient to make a clinical decision to work with somebody. He said, you have to make sure that, first of all, that they want to work with it. Number two, that they have the right support system to work with it. Number three, that this is the right season to work with it. So I thought that was one of those amazing piece of advice that I never let go. I took it on board and it is part of my practice. And I will give you a simple example just to demonstrate this. Some years ago, in the early years, somebody was referred to me, a young woman with agoraphobia. That means the person cannot go out to open spaces. And she also said there are times she also had claustrophobia. That means closed spaces as well. So one of the places that she couldn't go to was the supermarket. But however, every week she went to the supermarket, but in one condition, that if her husband went with her. So she had come to work with agoraphobia, and here I am firing away, trying to go through everything and homework and trying to get her, assist her to get better. Then after about the fourth session, nothing shifted. I said, let me kind of look at something here, what's going on? So I said, one of those moments of genius comes up sometimes. I said, okay, tell me, what would change if you got better? Will there be any challenges if you got better? She looked at me and said, yes, my marriage will change. I said, okay, so are you telling me if you do not have this particular problem, the opportunity to go with your husband to the supermarket will not be there? She said, yes. So I said, okay, I do agree with you that if that's important, what do you want to do here? She said, I would rather have my marriage than get better from agoraphobia. I said, well, if that's what you want, I'm happy to work with you in that. So that is a highlight of some problems that are there. There are what I call the secondary gain to a problem. If the secondary gain is greater than getting better, like approval, like financial support, like in Britain we do have different financial support systems from the government if we have certain issues. I'm not saying that's true of everyone, but getting better, there are some challenges that they have to consider. That getting better means everything could be stopped and you have to resume life very quickly, back to work, etc., which may not be realistic for some, and for others it is, but they choose not to. So really someone taking responsibility for their recovery is key, because if not, no matter what expertise that is brought to the situation, it will not change it.
Let's say in a friendship realm, I have a friend or I have a relative or somebody I work with, and I so want to see them overcome something, but they don't desire to overcome. Then is that where I just draw a boundary and step back?
Correct. Because at the end, they have marked out a boundary. Their boundaries, I don't want to get better from this particular aspect because for whatever reason, that is serving a purpose in their lives. But from your perspective, you could look and say, yes, this is a challenge. If you keep going like this, the loss is going to be greater than gain. But until they come to that realization and seek help, our compassion might take us to a place of a violation of disrespect.
So then we're working harder on their growth than they are willing to.
Correct.
They're frustrated because they really don't want our help.
Yes.
And we're frustrated because they're not changing.
Correct. So it's best to draw the line in those situations saying, listen, if you ever need someone to support you or help you through that, and if ever you come to that place, remember I'm there to help you through that. So I think that's where it go, as far as it could go.
I do a lot of quotes, and one of my quotes is that powerful people change what they can, and they choose peace in what they cannot.
Yes.
And one thing I can't change is someone else.
Correct.
And only if they are willing
Yes.
to change and grow and advance can I have influence in their life.
Spot on.
But if they don't want to, then I'm powerless to change that.
Correct.
And so I have to just choose peace and let them make their own choices for their life.
Yes.
And then I just have to choose what I'm going to do in that situation.
Correct.
That is best for me or an organization.
Spot on.
Okay, good.
Choice of will.
I
Choice
like to
of
have
will.
an expert let me know I'm processing things right. Thank you so much, Jerome.
You're welcome.